everybody, good morning. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. Sitting in my lovely woods. It's just a beautiful day. The weather has gotten a bit hot, but actually the humidity is broken a bit, so it's not too bad. It's not too bad here in Pennsylvania. I know in other parts of the country it is steaming, boiling hot. Oh my goodness, stay in the air conditioning. Stay cool. I do have a small tutorial for you today. Something that I actually made about 10-12 years ago. I had made a whole bunch of them. And I wanted to make some more. And so I referred back to two of my videos that I had made sort of, I embellished this project a little bit. And I'll explain that to you in a moment. I'm making a simple pillowcase. Now, why am I making pillowcases? Because you can go to the store and when you buy in America, when you buy a sheet set, you get pillowcases with it, okay? And if you have a thread count, you know, 400, 500, 250, 1,000 thread count, again in this country, or Egyptian cotton, you get beautiful pillowcases with it, a set of pillowcases. Usually with in this country, again, with a full set, you get 2 standard pillowcases, and with a king set, maybe sometimes you get 4 king-size pillowcases, sometimes. Why am I making pillowcases, or why did I? I personally happen to sleep don't judge, with like 4 pillows. It started when I was pregnant a million years ago with a million babies ago. Because I get very, very large when I'm pregnant, I needed a pillow in between my legs to support my spine, my doctor said. I needed a pillow because I'm large busted in between my boobs to support my boobs. I need a pillow sort of underneath my neck and sometimes even on my face. Oh, I'm a mess, right? I'm a mess. It's just happened as I've gotten older. I feel comfort when I have a lot of pillows. Okay, whatever. Good thing we have a king-size bed. Anyway, I started making pillowcases because it was sort of the thing in the quilting world about 10 years ago. It really was. And I jumped on the bandwagon and I started making what are called burrito or sausage pillowcases, the form. There's 3 seams, and they're made in like 15 minutes with like 3/4 of a yard to a yard of fabric, and they're fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Well, I had made a whole bunch of them because again, I sort of fleshed out my pillowcase. I have a thing about pillowcases. I was making them out of 100% quilting cotton, and actually all pre-washed, of course. All my fabric for my pillowcases are pre-washed. I can't emphasize that enough because I don't pre-wash my fabric for my quilts, but I do pre-wash my fabric, my 100% cotton fabrics, quilting cottons for my pillowcases, because the fabrics will inevitably shrink, and I don't want to make my pillowcase and then have my fabrics shrink or have my pillowcase shrink that much. So anyway, I was making pillowcases just in this country where you put a pillow in it. Awesome, super. But then I was thinking, because I had lived in England and I had been accustomed to the European sensibilities of a pillow slip, where they have a flap. I did a tutorial back in, I think like 2016 maybe, like a long time ago. And I will put the link below how I did that tutorial of my pillowcase with a flap so you don't see the pillow. Then I was thinking, I was making these pillowcases a dime a dozen. I was making them, and they're really sweet to make for little kids because you can get fabulous novelty fabrics. You know, Mickey Mouse and dinosaurs and all sorts of, Peppa Pigs, all sorts of fabrics that you can buy. Well, so many fabrics of like the novelty sort, and even fabrics that you buy at the quilt store, when you think about it, so many of them are like a floral, will be a directional print. So I was making pillowcases, and the pillowcases should go this way on a bed. Well, but the pattern was going this way, and it wasn't working. So in, I think, 2017, I did a tutorial, link below. I did a full tutorial on how to make a pillowcase out of directional fabric, okay? Well, now, I did these tutorials a million years ago, and I have made a million pillowcases, and I found, and I've been using them. This pillowcase here was the pillowcase, has been washed to death, and it's turned out, I mean, it's washed up beautifully. Okay, this is the tutorial I did for the pillowcase with a flap. okay, that you can tuck your pillow under there. This is the actual, I made a pair of them, and I made a bunch of them because my bedroom's pink and florally. I make them for me, and they have this little band, decorative. And again, quilting cotton, 100% quilting cotton. But as I say, this has been washed to death. This pillowcase here. This pillowcase here that I'm going to be showing you has 3 seams, so very easy, and not a raw seam in sight. Completely French seam, completely easy to make. So that's my pillowcase that I have a whole set of. I just grabbed it. That again, as I said, washed to death. Quilting cotton takes on, I don't know what the thread count is of quilting cotton as opposed to sheets. I don't know what that is. I have no idea. But as I said, it was a nice quality quilting cotton, and on my skin, and over the years, what, 5 years now, this fabric has worn beautifully, countless washings. And I also had done a pillow, as I was saying, a pillowcase with a directional fabric, as you can see. So the way I'm going to do my tutorial today, in a few minutes in my sewing room, is if you were doing a directional fabric, your print would be like, your pillowcase would end up looking like that, with the directional fabric going the wrong way. Okay, so I did a complete tutorial, and I did a left and a right, a very in-depth tutorial. Again, this was the actual tutorial I did my pillowcase on, or this was the actual pillowcase I did my tutorial on. Did I just say that? I think I did. Anyway, and this again, for Maxwell, and when Niles lived at home, this has been washed to death. Brilliant. And again, no raw seams. Everything is absolutely French seam here. No, nothing raw, and it has washed up beautifully. Again, a directional print. Now, the one I'm doing a tutorial on today is a simple burrito style pillowcase. Okay, it doesn't have the flap, it doesn't have a direction. This is my pillow. This is my pillow that I've done my tutorial on. And again, this is for me, and I'm going to give you the exact sizes. It has my pillow in it already. I'm going to give you the exact sizes for this pillow case, which is for an American pillowcase. An American pillow, standard / queen pillowcase, measures 20 by 26 inches. A pillow, the actual pillow inside. Okay, this tutorial requires 3/4 of a yard of fabric and a little bit of trim. Okay, and I tell you, I'm going to give you the directions or the cutting instructions for a king size pillow, again in this country, which measures 20 inches by 36 inches. The sewing instructions and the construction of your king size or your standard pillow are exactly the same. Exactly the same. But I will come to that when I go into my sewing room. But again, I think this pillow case is just lovely. This one is a little bit, I made these ones just an inch smaller, but what I recommend, and I will address it, of course I'll repeat myself, is you measure your actual pillow, and you can almost when you get to the point where we cut off the selvages, that's when it comes the width of here, the 20 inches. So you can either have it a little bit larger, which I did. These ones I did a little bit smaller. They're a bit snug, but I love this pillow. I have pre-washed this fabric. Okay, I wanted some fresh pillowcases. I just pre-washed on a hot wash and a hot rinse all my fabrics. So I know that I could show you this pillowcase and my second one in 10 years time, and it's going to look exactly like this. This was actually a Waverly fabric from Walmart, but a Waverly fabric, and I have used Waverly fabrics before. Oh, this is, if anybody of you have known this fabric, I bought that fabric there with the anchors. That's a Walmart fabric that I bought 7 or 8 years ago. Look at it. It's washed up beautifully. I tell you, I pre-wash them. So I'm going to go back into my sewing room. I'm going to show you this little tutorial. It's super easy, and as I say, the king size, just a regular pillow slip. is constructed the exact same way. If you want to do a directional pillow slip, refer back to my video 4 or 5 years ago and my pillow slip with the flap in it, which they're actually fairly popular videos. You can go back and refer to how I made this pillowcase with the flap. The pillowcase I'm doing now is just a good old American pillowcase, which you stick the pillow in. I know in Europe they're different, and in England it's different. That's why I've done several tutorials. But I remember I'm thinking, I've done this about 10 years ago, making my pillowcase. I never did a tutorial on it. And if you are in the quilting world, you know how to make these pillowcases. This is nothing new under the sun, absolutely. But if you haven't, I'm telling you, I recommend you make some pillowcases. Grab a yard of fabric or so. I'll give you the cutting instructions and pre-wash. Oh, I do, that's what I wanted to say. I do, after I do a washing, even with a load of linens, when I do my laundry, I will, it's my little thing because my mother taught me, I do iron my pillowcases, even my permanent press pillowcases that come out. And I don't iron anything other than in quilting. I don't iron any of my clothes, nothing. I mean, occasionally I'll put a crease down my husband's trousers, or do his collar on his shirt. But I don't iron clothes. But my mom always taught me, and back then the cottons were not permanent press, to have a really lovely pillowcase, just so lovely. It takes 2 seconds to iron. So if you don't iron your pillowcases, I'm telling you, you haven't lived. My mom showed me how to do that, and I have always ironed my pillowcases, and I enjoy it because it's sort of mindless, and you can make a nice crisp little package. Anyway, that's by the by. So, but again, the quilting cotton, as opposed to like a permanent press sheet that you get from the manufacturers, does wrinkle a little bit. It's so nice to have a nice crisp pillowcase. So I'm going to go back in my sewing room, excuse me, and I'm going to sit here and listen to my birds for a few minutes. It's so lovely. But I am going to go back in my sewing room, and I'm going to show you my tutorial on how to make a pillowcase. Super, super easy. All right, folks. See ya. Bye. So you've seen the lovely pillow that I've made, my lovely pillowcase that I've made. Standard American pillowcase. You shove the pillow in it and you're done with it. This is the fabrics I'm using. Again, completely pre-washed in hot water and dried in a hot dryer. 3 pieces of fabric, that's all you're going to need, with 3 seams to actually make this. So as you can see here, and I'll take a picture of this, for a standard or a queen size pillow in this country, which measures 20 by 26, you are going to be cutting, for the body of my pillowcase, the larger part of my pillowcase, which is my fabric A, you're going to be cutting 1 piece 27 inches wide by the width of the fabric. And it doesn't matter about the width of the fabric. Some fabrics are 42, some are 44, some may be 41, or whatever. Don't worry about that. Just cut 27 inches of fabric at this point. For the fabric B, which is my cuff, my pink and white dot cuff, fabric B, I'm cutting 1 piece 9 inches wide by the width of the fabric. For my little accent piece here, which is the white here, I'm cutting a 3-inch piece by the width of the fabric. Okay, three pieces of fabric with 3 seams. Now, for a king size pillow, again in this country, a king size pillow measures 20 by 36 inches. Your fabric A, you're going to be cutting a piece 36 inches by the width of the fabric. Your cuff, you're going to be cutting a piece 12 inches by the width of the fabric. And your small accent, you're going to be cutting 3 inches by the width of the fabric. Just making a bigger pillowcase. The actual construction of a king size pillowcase is the exact way I'm going to be showing you how to make my pillowcase here. So now, I've ironed my accent piece in half with the wrong sides together. Put that aside for a minute and put my body away there for a minute. And as you can see, this fabric here has a selvage on each end, my cuff fabric. I'm just going to lay that out. The width of the fabric, it's about 44 inches, whatever it is, 42 inches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, with the raw sides of my accent fabric, I'm going to start just pinning, just laying, actually I won't even pin it. I'm just going to lay that one side here. This is to my left, from the camera it's to my left. I'm going to lay that selvage edge of my accent to the selvage edge there. It's not going to match up here because every fabric manufacturer has different size selvages. So I'm just going to lay very carefully my accent fabric on my cuff. I'm keeping it nice and straight on my board. I'm keeping that lovely and straight all the way across, and I'm just lining that top edge, the raw edges together, okay? The raw edges together. Now I'm going to be taking my body fabric, and again with my selvages to the sides, the selvages are to the sides, I'm going to take my body fabric here, and I'm going to, again, I'm going to line up the selvage edge to here on my left. Here on my left, I'm putting the pretty side to the pretty side. The right side of the fabric down to the right side, and I'm going to just be I'm going to line up this selvage edge here to my left, and I'm just going to be sandwiching that accent piece. Now I'm going to be putting my pins in just temporarily. I'm going to be putting my pins in this way. Okay, I'm not putting them in the way when you actually sew things together. I'm just anchoring this, and I'll show you what our next step is to make our first seam. Just putting this, I'm just putting these pins this way, and as you see, this fabric here, this is a selvage edge and that's a selvage edge. It's not the same. It's not the same width. Every manufacturer is different. So I have, though, what I have done is I've matched up one side of my selvage, okay? So now, just put another pin in here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 layers, right, that we've pinned together for this seam here. Now, what I want you to do is from the bottom, I want you to start rolling the body of your fabric into a small sausage. Okay, just roll it. Just keep rolling it evenly into a little tight sausage there. Okay, you got that? You're going to pick up the bottom and you're going to roll it. The king size is going to do the exact same thing. You're going to roll it from the bottom, okay? You're going to have a little bit more because this is the 27 inches and the other one will be your 36 inches for your king size. But this is what you're going to have. You're going to keep it about 5 inches from the top, okay? Now what you're going to do, you're going to pick up your cuff fabric and we're going to put it right over to our other fabric here, okay? And we're going to yet again enclose. Now we have 5 pieces of fabric. Okay, we have 5 pieces of fabric here. I'm going to take out these pins, and now actually I can put them in the way we're going to sew this seam. Okay, I'm being very careful to keep all of my raw edges together. There's 5 layers of fabric there. So I've pulled my cuff up over that. Hopefully you can see that. I've rolled up my body and I've pulled my cuff up. And it's equal right here on this selvage edge over here. Okay, and my little rolled up body is out of the way of that seam that we are now going to sew, our first seam. This has 3 seams and that is it. So what I have here now is when I go over to my machine, I'm going to sew from here all the way down on this seam, and I'm assured that I'm not catching that sausage of my body of my fabric into my So I brought over my little package, and I know that that little sausage bit, my tube, is out of the way of this seam here. And the way I put my pins, I can just stitch 1/4 inch, and I'm stitching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of fabric. And again, my cuff fabric matches, but my other ones, the selvages, don't. You don't have to worry about at this point. And we'll just back stitch that, although we're going to be trimming this up. So now, the thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to reach inside. I'm going to reach inside, and I'm going to grab the body of my pillowcase fabric, and I'm just going to turn this inside out. That stitching in there, it's beautiful. What I am going to do now is I'm going to go over to my iron, and I'm going to really iron this well. I'm going to iron my cuff up here, make it nice and crisp, iron the body of my pillowcase, and yeah, and then we'll trim off this and we'll show you what we do next. So I have my lovely pillowcase here, okay, that's been freshly ironed, okay. My cuff is lovely. I have my lovely accent here, and this is the whole width of my pillowcase, okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to address these edges that we have here that are a little bit gnarly, and I'm going to with the wrong sides of my pillowcase together, the wrong sides together, okay, the wrong sides of my pillowcase together, I'm going to just line them up on my cutting table, right, like this, okay. I'm going to do it this way because this is how I cut, and I'm going to make sure everything is really nice and square. My accent pieces are down, my seams are matched up here, and as you can see here, my selvages are all a little bit wonky, but that's okay because of the width, okay. I have 2 selvages, let me just see, yeah, I have 2 selvages here, the printed selvage of my fabric here, as you can see, and then the other tighter woven, little fuzzy edged selvage over here, okay. And then I have all of this up here, because this is a different fabric manufacturer's, okay, so I have my other selvages up there, all right. So what I'm going to do now is everything is nice and straight and square, all right. My bottom is nice and straight and square. I'm going to pull this in half like that, all right. I've cut it very well. Everything is lovely and square and straight. You want it to hang nicely. And on my cutting mat here, over here, right there, on my cutting mat, I'm going to measure over. It's measuring about 21.5 to, this is going over to almost 23, all of this mess up here, okay? All of that mess up there. Let me just put this down here, show you again. Okay, I'm going to be taking my straight edge ruler that I have a lip edge. I have this Alpha lip edge ruler. I'm just going to put it onto my cutting mat here, like that. And I'm going to find all of this selvage edge rubbish here, okay? It's there, it's over here, all of this. And I'm just going to cut. Everything is nice and straight and square. Square down here, it's square over here. I'm just going to cut it, and I'm going to cut all of that selvage rubbish off, exactly where it is. That bit there is the inside, okay? So I'm just going to come over, and that measures now about 20 3/4 for me. Yours is going to be different because your selvages are all going to be different from whatever manufacturer. But at this point, I'm going to open up my rotary cutter, and this is nice and straight, and I'm just going to cut off all of that selvage rubbish over there, okay? Now, as we have off of our cutting table right here, looks like a pillowcase, right? Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my sewing machine just as it is. I'm going to take this carefully. I could pin it if I want. Just pin these edges together here, okay, or clip it. What I want you to do is at this point, you're going to match up your accent band, and because we've really cut it very beautifully, you know that your accent band is going to match up beautifully. All right, you're just going to match that seam there, and you're going to match that band, because we just want sort of that to look like a continuous band right around. So you're just going to match it like that. I know that that's there, and then up here, that top edge. Now this is, you're saying, what are you doing? You're not doing pretty sides together. How would I always say? Pretty sides together, pretty sides together. No, I'm doing the wrong sides together. I'm doing the wrong sides. What we're going to do is you're going to sew down one side, the wrong sides together, 1/4 inch. Okay? You're going to sew down one side. You're going to come to this corner here. You're going to put your needle down and pivot, and you're going to sew right across. I've made sure, bringing this over to my machine, that my top edges are together, my needle down, and I am going to back stitch. I'm going to back stitch on this top edge here. And I'm just going to sew down 1/4 inch right down that seam there. Now, there's quite a few layers here. Your machine will do it. Just go slowly and right down. I'm going to back stitch there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this inside out. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to, with my fingers, I'm going to roll this seam up. I'm going to dampen my fingers and I'm going to roll this seam up and I'm going to press that seam. Really? Now I've turned my pillowcase inside out, as you see, and as I said, I've taken my seam and I've pressed it right to the end. So to dampen my fingers and roll that so I can iron that right up to the very end. Now, a proper French seam, you must realize, even in garment making, at the point where we sewed it at 1/4 inch, a lot of people would have gone back in here and trimmed that seam down to about 1/16 inch. They would have taken off maybe 1/8 inch there. I'm not doing that. I don't do that on my pillowcases. I'm going to now, because it's just a pillowcase, in garment making, you would have trimmed your seam down. Oh, excuse me. You would have trimmed your seam down so you had a nice delicate double seam. But because I'm making a pillowcase, I'm going to be sewing my seam here about 1/2 inch in, maybe even a little bit more. So I know, I can see that where that seam is, at that 1/4 inch, but I'm going to sew it about 1/2 inch in. I don't mind, for me, by all means, if you're making this, I don't mind, you could trim that seam from the other side to a little tiny bit, and then you do another 1/4 inch, making sure that you don't get any fuzzies in it. Sometimes even as you trim it, you get little frays, but then you can just trim them off. But for me, I'm just going to go in, having pressed that seam really, really well, rolled that right up to the top. I've ironed that really, really crisp. I'm just going to go in about 1/2 inch, and I'm going to sew all the way down. Now the pretty sides of my fabric are together, okay? And this is our third seam, no raw seam. So again, I'm going in about 1/2 inch and I'm back stitching at the very top. And this is a big lump of fabric because our layers of our cuff, seam, and our accent piece are there. So you just want to go slowly over that. But I can feel and I can almost see my 1/4 inch seam in there. Again, this is a very wide French seam. Back stitch. I'm going to turn it inside out, have a nice press, and my lovely pillowcase is completely finished. So I've turned my pillowcase pretty side out, and as you can see, my accent band on that seam finishes beautifully. It wraps right around there, and my seam is completely enclosed. Okay, now when I iron a pillowcase, or when I'm making these pillowcases and I'm ironing them, what I do is, for my final iron, my pillowcase is finished, I will just sort of open it up like that. This is my side seam, but then I'll just go and I'll press that seam really, really beautifully. It is a thicker. So there we go. There I have my lovely, beautiful pillowcase, pre-washed, 100% cotton, really nice and square, nice and lovely, no raw seams. Press that. Oh, it's so lovely and soft. It'll only get softer with use. So I have a lovely pair of pillowcases. I did have a ta-da moment. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, folks, and I hope you will make a really pretty pillowcases. I mean, how delightful is that? Maybe they don't match your sheets, but you want to spruce up a lovely little bed or a day bed. Have them pretty on your little shelf. Love my pillowcases. All right, folks, thanks a lot. And as always, love from the Trueloves. All right, bye-bye.